Good morning. Welcome to Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg, and it's the 13th day of March 2024. Welcome to our show today. We had a great show today because we have Liberty Essentials with Bill Mohr. I'm bringing on Ralph, the IT guy, and Karen the Riveter. So we have a little buddy chat going on here. And then at 10 o'clock, Dar Leaf is going to be coming on, and I'm very, very proud to have Dar on. We're going to be supporting here to support him and give him encouragement. You know, he's our guy there. And I think that the wonderful thing is that he's actually doing something, but we're just going to give some encouragement to him and see what's going on today a little bit. And I'm not sure if we're going to get into things in depth because there's an ongoing investigation going on, but he needs to know that we're out there supporting him. So, and with that said, morning guys, how you doing?
Great.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Sunny day out today. Did you guys see what was happening in the sky? Yesterday, I posted a picture of all of the trails that went across the sky, and they went like almost right over my house. It was amazing. And posted that, and then the rest of the day, everything was pretty well hazy up there in the sky. It was an odd pattern. It was just like right, perfectly spaced out, kind of crazy. So I don't know what's going on, but it didn't look like a natural pattern. And yes, I'm a plane nerd, so that to me looked really, really odd. But just wanted to get on this morning and get moving here with Liberty's Essentials. What are we talking about today, Bill?
Well, you know what? Let's touch on what you just said there, because a lot of people don't understand that or deny it.
You want me to show the picture? I can do that.
Yeah, go ahead and pull up the picture. So we all remember when we were younger, the cloud patterns and what we were taught by clouds. There's very specific cloud formations that form in different environments and wind conditions. However, more and more, and I was just opened up to this about 2 years ago, more and more we see this general haze, especially here in Michigan. I mean, everybody else, you know, if you're listening to this and you're somewhere else in the nation and you bring up something in the sky, say, oh, look at that, look at the sun, well, just assume that here in Michigan, we can't see what you're talking about because we're covered all the time.
Yes.
Yeah. So the picture you have here, most people would look at that and say, hey, that's just contrails coming off from aircraft, right? It's the moisture that the aircrafts create after they burn fuel and run across the atmosphere. And even I was taught as a kid in school that the longer the contrail, the more moisture is in the air and the more potential for rain, right? However, talking with several aircraft pilots and such, you get an understanding that contrails, no matter the moisture count in the air, usually dissipate rapidly. You don't end up with miles and miles of trails behind a plane. And so what we're looking at for the most part here are actually chemtrails. And these are, and you can read about it. It's all in the congressional record. It was actually read there. There's patents on it. There's proof that a lot of the airplanes are fitted with such things. Whether the pilots know it or not, I can't confirm that. It may be just some special system that they use or are told to turn on or use in certain aspects. But chemtrails are actually chemical compounds, aluminum and barium, amongst other things. And one thing I find interesting is that when you read in Deuteronomy 28, one of the judgments of the Lord is that in a rebellious nation, he says he will turn the rain of thy land into dust until thou be consumed. And that's exactly what we see here. Granted, it different forms across different generations of nations, but it's the same basic principle. And it's geoengineering of the weather to either, one, reduce the sun, two, cause droughts, or three, to manipulate the weather pattern so that crops only grow in certain areas for certain people, right? You can see this all the way across the nation. It's not just here in Michigan. So with that,
they're generally on a pattern. You'll be able to see them where they crisscross quite often. And I've actually seen, being a little bit of an aircraft nerd, I've seen videos where when they turn off the spraying from the planes. And you can watch them, and all of a sudden you'll have all of this spray coming out the back of the plane, and then boom, turns it right off. And
and if it was a contrail, I mean, aircrafts don't rapidly change their engine RPM while flying, right?
Right.
When they reach a certain altitude, they maintain a certain amount of thrust of their engines to keep that altitude. And unless they're taking off or landing, there's not a huge difference in thrust. They just maintain their speed till they get to where they're going. So there would be no reason to see a trail immediately start to form or immediately cease. And what you see on the picture here, you can see right there in the middle, those two left trails especially, they just end. They just stop right there. So there's obviously some conflict with not only physics but the knowledge that we understand in aircraft.
Yeah, and it stayed up. It stayed up all day, except for it rapidly turned into the entire sky in kind of like an overcast, hazy pattern up there. But I'm not buying that these are, you know, contrails. I think they're chemtrails. You know, so that was kind of interesting all day, and I wasn't the only one that saw it. We have people on the chat that posted. Charlotte posted one yesterday, and I think it was Charlotte that posted one yesterday. I had probably 2 or 3 people that were posting pictures over their houses and how rapidly and how attached to this little event it was. So at any rate, I don't really know. I made some calls yesterday, and something tells me that this actually might have been a good guy spraying, and to potentially hide something that was going on up there. I typically think that there's a lot more because I watch the trackers and such, and I track military aircraft and that sort of thing, and there was nothing up in the sky. So my thought is, you know, we know that there's enough of us plane nerds out there that are kind of watching. And if we see something up in the air and it doesn't show up on any of the trackers, it's got its transponder off, and therefore it's on a mission. And so because I do believe that the good guys are in charge, and we won this war before it even started. I do believe that. I really do. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to call out the bad stuff as we go and say that there's bad things that happen, even if we won the overall effort. You know, I think we're still crashing the cleanup here. We're cleaning things up. And so, you know, it may have been to give a little cover to say a real battle going on, but I don't know that. And regardless, something was being sprayed up there. There's no 2 ways about it. And let's hope that it's the good guys. Salute, and go get them and bring this thing down.
Yep.
So there you go.
The funny thing about all that, and it's not really funny, I'm not laughing about it at all. The interesting thing about that is that several states across the nation have actually passed legislation making it illegal to spray any chemicals in the air. I don't know how many people know that. There's been several across there. Michigan's not one of them, of course. And
Michigan's
I'm curious how
dumpster fire.
Yep.
Total dumpster fire. So yeah, poster child for what not to do and or what's going to happen if you have communist leaders, and that would be the entire executive branch as well as the legislative branch, you know, who needs to be removed and tried for treason. That goes back to my comment this morning about Unshackle the Mitten coming out and saying Donna's in with red pilled, and there was a wonderful patriot out there, Jill Brandenburg, that said, who I'm not related to actually, that I know of, but at any rate, she came up and said Donna's not associated with any of this. She talks to everyone, and why aren't you calling out Justin Barkley for being involved in this? Because, you know, he was one that was like, don't vote for Brandenburg. She's going to split the vote. I'm going to tell you what, if people are disenfranchised with politics in the state of Michigan, all you got to do is look at the absolute bullshit going on in these political parties, the lying, the absolute ungodly behavior of, it's not about holding people accountable. It's lying about them, flat out lying about them, and destroying the very people that are probably there that would be willing to help. And, you know, you want to find out who's for real. Who are they attacking? Who are they attacking? That's going to be your person that's for real, because they can't have anything change. And the Republican Party, with both sides whining, all I got to say is the only words I want to hear out of Hoekstra's mouth and the group that voted him in is, "Yep, Hoekstra committed acts of treason by signing that Patriot Act, not once but twice, and this is what I plan to do to fix it."
Yeah,
That's all.
yeah, it has to be done.
That's
You
all I
can't,
want to hear.
We can't just let things go anymore. The longer we let things go, the more they'll re-engage and continue to attack the American people, right? I don't care if they're currently in office or not. If they did it in the past and have still not been held to account, that needs to be done and can be. There's plenty of remedy to do so. It's just a matter of the people rising up and doing it.
Yes.
So one thing over the past 3.5 years, we all, we don't have to talk about that. 3.5 years, we all know what went on, especially in these four little boxes on screen. We understand it, we saw it, we watched it, and a lot of us knew it right from the beginning, right? I still go all the way back to March 10th, 2020. That's when it started here in Michigan. That's when the first executive order came out in Michigan, unconstitutionally, of course. And nobody had the authority to do what they did, yet they did it. So I go all the way back to that. If we can't fix March 10th, 2020, we're not going to be able to fix anything beyond that. We're not going to be able to fix the 2020 election or the 2022 election or the upcoming 2024 election. We haven't dealt with the past. We're going to reap the consequences of it, right?
I agree.
And there are simple measures in place to do that. I mean, our framers were very concise when they wrote certain things. And leaving the U.S. Constitution out of it, right? They swear an oath to the U.S. Constitution, but also the Michigan Constitution. I was just at a meeting this weekend, and we were talking about how many people don't even know that there's a Michigan Constitution, and let alone how many people have actually read it to understand it, right? Our state constitutions are much more powerful than our federal constitutions are. The federal Constitution only has, roughly 19 delegated powers to them that they are allowed to do and must do, and nothing more or less. Okay, but the state constitution brings the power back to our home front, back into our yard, and it puts the ball in our court, so to speak. Right? We play the offense here. We don't play defense for the federal government. We play offense because we know that government is a necessary evil. Right? Our framers made that very clear. If all men were angels, we would have no need of government, but we're not, right? We're all fallen. We're all learning, educating ourselves, and slowly being perfected by the grace of God.
You know what? So but if everybody took it upon themselves to say, "You should set the example."
Yeah, we have to be able to self-govern ourselves, and then leave the small delegated powers that we give the government. We leave that to them. Right, so that we can live our lives and we can do what we need to do. And it's very, very simple. In the Michigan Constitution, we have, what article is that? That is Article 11, and it's Section 7, right? It's simple impeachment of civil officers. Now, I questioned this about a year ago because I really wanted to know. I was like, what is a civil officer? Right? Can anybody define that? Because it's not defined in the Constitution, whether Michigan or federal. It's not clearly defined in Black's Law Dictionary in that context. But what we actually have is an officer is any person invested with authority of an office, right? Plain and simple. So if you hold a title and you have a job to do under that title, you are an officer, okay? And there are many different officers. You have military and naval officers. You have ecclesiastical officers, right? That pertaining to the church. And you have civil officers, that pertaining to civil government. So when you combine those two, a civil officer is no more, no less than a person holding an office within our civil government, right? Whether elected or appointed, they have a title and they have a job, and they are part of the government and are being paid by the government. and they are to swear the same oath as all of our elected officials, and they are to be held accountable for such things. So we're not just talking about people hired, civilian servants in the government. We're also talking about elected servants in the government. And Section 7 makes it clear in our Michigan Constitution that our House of Representatives, we know that's the people's house. They are to represent us. They're not doing that. And we're to hold them accountable for that. We're to instruct them, so to speak. And we should be instructing them to impeach all these officials, civil officers within government that are violating their own office and or committing acts of treason against the American people. Okay? And we see that on a day-to-day basis. And all it takes is one person to stand up in the legislature, in the House of Representatives, and bring the truth. Say they're guilty of these crimes, and we need to hold them accountable, right? But the problem is, and you touched on this just a minute ago, the problem is the American people, let's go back, the Michiganian people have placed themselves in such a positions that we have allowed sole power to a group of individuals. I worded that carefully because many people will say, well, we have Democrats, Republicans, they fight against each other. No, they don't, right? They are a sole power. They are all governed by the same group of people, the same entity, and they are all doing the same things. Whether you see it or not, it may give the appearance of them opposing each other, like John Adams said. However, they are both under the same leadership. So it doesn't matter who's in power. They continue down the same path of infringing upon upon Michiganians' rights. Right? I think everybody can agree with that. I haven't seen anything worthwhile be repealed, no matter who's in power. Right? These people represent us, not their parties. If they represent their parties, they got to go, and that's all we have currently. So
Yep.
that's one thing that needs to be pushed constantly by the people of Michigan, is we have to be pushing for impeachment against every small infringement of our rights, whether that be the governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, any other civil officers, township, county, city wards. Anything can be handled in that regard, but it takes somebody of character, right? We talked about this on our last show, Exodus 18:21. Able, God-fearing, truth-seeking, and hating immoral gain. It takes somebody of that character to stand up and say, yeah, I'm going to be the one to do this, right? We need to find the courageous people who are willing to stand in the gap between the people and the necessary evil we call government, because that's all we have right now. And then not only that, a lot of people think impeachments just mean that, yeah, they're held accountable for a crime and then they're removed from office. That's not where it stops. If you read clause 3 in that, that'd be clause 4. Once a person is convicted in impeachment, it goes right to the Senate, right? The Senate is the state representatives, okay? They represent the best interests of the state. They don't represent the best interests of the people, okay? That's why there's less of them, namely, okay? So when it gets to them, they take this and they actually hold a trial. They hold the court in the legislature. And once they can be removed from office from the Senate, there's this little clause right at the end that says, but the person convicted shall be liable to punishment according to law. Not may be liable, shall be liable. That means they are to be held in account in a people's court for their crimes. That is what we're leaving off here in America. In every state of this union, we are leaving off the justice. Right? Sorry, I don't know where that came from. I just wanted to throw that out there.
No, and well, I think that the action by we the people has got to start. We can't just sit here and do nothing. You know, John was on yesterday, and I said I want to go after on the township levels the clerks for the voting machines, because the electronic voting machines. So we started writing something up, and he's going to have it by next week. But we went through a letter on how to approach the townships on a township level across the state of Michigan and give them the legal basis for telling them they must remove the electronic voting machines or they are liable for committing the crime, because we know that they cheated that way. It's part of the cheat, and it's foreign intervention in our elections. We had Serbia involved in this. We've had these machines are a globalist entity, backed by a globalist entity. So right there, they're illegal, and the government can't be involved in our elections. It's supposed to be held by we the people. And unfortunately, the Board of Elections, Jonathan Brader, who sent the letter out to all the clerks that said, you need to give us all your information and don't talk to any voters. We'll handle it at the state level. That's what happened. And we have the letter, and the clerks that listened to that broke the law. They broke the law. And it's taking it and centralizing power and making the local areas irrelevant and getting it further away from the people so that they can manipulate it, do whatever they want with it, because it's too big. It's got to be decentralized. And so that's one thing we're doing. And yesterday I asked everybody, I would love to see this entire state say, I'll help, Donna, I'll help, and get a hold of me. It's pretty darn easy. I put my phone number out there, 616-430-4410. And as vice chair of the U.S. Taxpayers Party, which is the Constitution Party in Michigan, we should be running this forward and saying, I know we've talked about this. We've already got a resolution within the party that you wrote, Bill, and it's wonderful. We have to take this and run with this.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we brought this up on another show where the governor can remove public officers, whether elective or appointed.
The entire government, just about, right? The entire government.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head there, is that we have a centralized government now. The exact thing that our framers fought and died and bled to leave, right, from the King of England. The same thing that they were dealing with then, we have now brought upon ourselves again. And it all goes back. Yeah, the perfect example of when the Israelites say, give us a king like the other nations, right? And they were warned of how that king was going to treat them. Yet they still wanted a king. Okay, I don't understand that from my point of view. I've never wanted, call it I have a problem with authority. I really don't. I just have a problem with tyrannical authority, right? I don't want somebody to rule over me. I already have a king. His name is Jesus. Okay.
Judges lays out a pretty decent model.
Yeah, absolutely. But even now, the people of this union are desiring a king, whether they say it or not. What they say and what they look for, and their promotion of certain candidates across the board, they want a king. They want somebody to do for them what they're unwilling to do for themselves.
Bingo.
Right? And that's all it is. It's the same thing the Israelites dealt with. It's the same things that our founding fathers fought against. And now we get to do it all over again, right? And this is not something...
I would say that we've been groomed for it, because look at what the media has done and how they've manipulated and brainwashed people. The entirety of looking at our government has become a popularity contest. Not are you able to do the job? It's like, oh, I like this person and I'm going to believe everything they say and follow them with absolute starry eyes. That's not what you do. We're supposed to be managers, and we're supposed to say, how you doing? I want to see some accountability. If you screw up, let's see how we can fix it, because people are going to make mistakes. And we've got to give them the ability and the grace and the help to fix if somebody makes a mistake. But because you're not going to get anybody that's perfect in any of the seats. We're human beings. But because we'll go after someone and want to destroy them, it's a constant game. It's like an arcade game or something where we are set against our government instead of working with them and putting our time in to serve. We want to sit back and not have any involvement. but treat it like a sports team. Win at all costs. Doesn't matter if you cheat, lie, or steal. The ends justify the means kind of stuff. And the means for the political parties are win at all costs, destroy people along the way. And so you can sit home and be lazy and expect somebody else to do everything for you and then complain when they fail.
It's like the meme. It's like the meme I made with the cat and the lion. The cat sitting on the couch on its butt with a remote control saying, "We need to do something about this," and the lion next to him is roaring because he's ready to go. And that's the thing, like, self-governing is hard. It's work. It means you got to go to those meetings and state your case and demand that you have the right to speak and assemble and instruct your officials or whatever term people want to use for them. You instruct the elected, and if they do something wrong, you've got to notify them of it and ask for a remedy. And if they don't, then you have to be willing, as Bill was saying, to remove them. And the problem, I think one of the problems we have, based on what you just said, Bill, was, the Senate then having the duty to impeach and do that process. Well, what if the Senate is partly responsible for all the problems and they're not going to do their duty? And that's the kind of thing that we're dealing with now. We have so much corruption. We feel like our hands are tied. And even when we try to step up and do all of the steps that we're responsible for, we're not effective at it.
Karen, and that's why I've said for years that it all starts locally. Because all these township boards, all of the county boards, they should also be calling for impeachment because they see the crimes, they know it. Most of them are part of it. Which is why I say we need to get into these local boards because from that position, the government kind of listens to itself more than the people, right? We all understand that. When you hold a title of an office, you're able to call numbers that no normal person could call and get a hold of somebody, right? And if all of the local boards would start pushing on the counties and all the counties would start pushing on the state, they would have to take an action because it's actually the township officials and the county officials that do most of the campaigning for the major parties, right? I think we can agree on that. That's the way that I perceive it anyway. They hold a lot of town halls and such for their county commissioners in the townships. And the county holds much events and actually permits a lot of the events for state officials as well. And they can much easier hold them accountable that way, but they won't because they're all complicit in it. And a lot of the circles that I'm in, and even the ecclesiastical church, they will always say there's no political solution to the problems we face. And I 100% agree. We're not going to election cycle our way out of this, right? It's going to take more than that. It's going to take sacrifice. It's going to take courage. It's going to take force. And it's going to take a lot of work. But there has to be some political solution involved because to hold somebody accountable in the government and remove them also requires something else. It requires a replacement, right? And if we're willing, we got to get to the point where we're willing to push for their removal, right? And prosecution, no doubt. But that next step is just as important as the first. Because if we're not willing to stand in the gap, then they're going to replace it with somebody just like us. And then you have to go through the circles again. So we have to be willing to get out there and be a candidate, right? No matter the cost, we have to be willing to take that spot if we are willing to get them out. You can't have one without the other.
And you don't have to look at it as a permanent solution. It's like for me running for governor, I'm like, I'm going to go in and fix stuff and I'm out of here. I don't want a political career. That's my whole mindset. And that should be everybody saying, you know what, I can decide that I want to go ahead and serve and be part of the solution to righting this nation. I'm going to go work for a 2-year term or a 4-year term or whatever it is. And at the end of the term, self-regulate. Say, okay, at that point in time, we're going to find somebody else who wants to serve just like you would in a military capacity or something, and come in and do what's right by the state. And maybe I'm willing to be a phone call away or something like that, but I'm going back to my family. I'm not going to make money off the government. And that's what really needs to happen. But we don't have enough people out there. And it says it in the Bible, in the end times, where the workers are not there. The wheat fields are ripe for harvest, but there's not enough workers. And you can see that in government. You can see that in business. You can see that in taking care of our older population. How many people want to work in an elder care home? They can't hire enough people. You can't hire plumbers. You can't hire electricians, because there's too many people that want to sit and act like children, driven by play all the time. Got to play all the time. Life's got to be, unicorns and flowers and such, instead of getting in there and doing the hard work of an adult to take care of this nation, our Father's business, and make sure that we hand something over to our children that's worth having.
Yeah, and that all starts back in Exodus, where we're called to teach our children the laws, commands, and statutes of God, and all through Leviticus and Deuteronomy, the same things, and even down in the New Testament, where in the book of Titus, where he's talking about the old men should be training the younger men, the older women should be teaching the younger women, and not only that, but teaching them skills, giving them knowledge, equipping them for life. Right? That's the whole purpose, is equipping the next generation to do the same things, or to be willing to do the same things. I can only, God forbid my kids have to go through all this as well, but they will if I don't stand in that gap. But we have to train them to be willing to do the things that we need to do and that our framers showed us how to do, so that the next generations won't have to do it. But we have to be willing. That's where it all starts. A willing heart, right? That's where everything roots from, is whether or not we are self-centered or whether or not we have our posterity in mind, as our Constitution's preamble says.
Ralph, you had something to say there too?
Yeah, just basically about Cincinnatus, the namesake of the city of Cincinnati. We need more modern Cincinnati, people who are, when called to act, willing to do something to help, but not necessarily that's their goal, is to be in government. Politicians should never be a career. But, if you are called to duty, you should be willing to answer that duty.
Well, and the way we pay them is wrong too. I honestly believe that we should nullify about 90% of the government, because there's so much usurpation going on there. That's what really needs to be done, is we need to nullify until we get back to what the nation was supposed to look like, to take care of the needs of the people, we the people. And perhaps we need to look at paying it almost like a jury duty. And so you don't just, you get paid for showing up. And that doesn't include just writing a bunch of bills that you never read, that's for all your buddies, special interests, so you can get a cushy job in one of these organizations after you're out. And,
this also, daily reference to the Roman Empire. I tend to think that, there's an awful lot of study about the downfall of the Roman Empire. I tend to kind of agree with the sentiment that a lot of that really came down to the disconnect between the localities within the Roman Empire and the central Senate. And they more or less kind of federalized power and disconnected the voices of the lowly towns on the outskirts of it, they kind of got disconnected from the central Senate and the central management of everything. And we're seeing the same kind of situation now. And Bill, is as you kind of have talked about several times this morning and really talk about a lot, is those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. We've seen all of this kind of stuff in history before. Like you said, the difference between the Book of Judges and the Book of First Kings, they went from effectively a representative form of a hierarchical representative form of government to asking for a king. And we have the same kind of situation now where people are effectively looking to one person as a hero, rather than it's all of us that are supposed to be doing this. It is all of our responsibility. And we need to get out of the mindset of effectively idolatry toward political figures, because they're not here to help us. We are supposed to be helping us. We're supposed to be helping each other, and the way that it's being done right now is exactly what was being fought against.
But Ralph, if you had somebody from the government come to you and say, "Hey, I'm here from the government and I'm here to help," wouldn't you just grab a hold of that and say, "Yes, finally"?
Absolutely. That's one of the most horrific statements you could hear.
We're going to go to the chat just a minute. Charlotte was talking about the chemtrailing in the sky. Been living in Livingston County, been to Livingston County Board of Commissioners meeting on the issue. They're poisoning of the land and people and will continue until something is done. They're doing this 3 times a week. No good. They have 20% of the sun blocked already. Needs to stop. Bill Gates. Matt Maddock has filed a lawsuit against the lawmakers in Lansing, case number 124-CV-00257, First Amendment rights issues. Lieutenant Governor is on the World Economic Forum board in Detroit. He's a clown. Yes, that is true. Secretary of State was installed to write language that citizens can't challenge the vote. Can sheriffs, through the 10th Amendment, stop electronic voting and only allow paper in person? I would think that they can. I really, really do. Charlotte gives Matt Maddox's phone number out and his email address in the chat if anyone wants to talk to him. And why did Stan Grott, let's see, moving around, step down from running against Benson? $250,000. Okay, my chat's moving around. Everybody's talking now. $250,000 from Ron Weiser is why they said he stepped down. Charlotte said, how do we have anyone on the Taxpayers Party running for Senate? Hey, do we have anyone on the Taxpayers Party running for Senate or Congress in Livingston? Hoover, I like, but he won't talk. Norton versus Shelby County. Collusion that is discovered is a good way to remove someone from office, from Rob Now. And what city kicked out its township board and replaced them?
Grant Township, Big Rapids area, Mecosta County.
Mecosta County.
Over the Goshen deal.
That was a Goshen deal. That was over Chinese money and a plant built. There was Goshen, Green Charter Township. Leb says the problem today is my generation looked down on the trades. Those jobs were beneath them, and they taught their kids that attitude. All they pushed was desk jobs. And Rob is, thank you. More townships and cities could use their example. Denise says, hi, Donna, I'll help you. Oh, thank you. That's awesome. Marco and I actually started a letter to Christy Posey, our Macomb County clerk, would like to help set up a chain of command of executing this throughout every county. I am too. That's what I want to do. Also, you'd laugh. We were neighbors with Tony and Louise Wickersham. If you had seen the inside of their house, you'd throw up. The filth, the leaking ceiling, broken furniture, and the smell of dog poop.
The first comment there you're reading, Donna, she made a point that the Secretary of State was issuing directives regarding election law. She doesn't have that authority to change the law, right? She can issue directives according to the law. But to do anything outside of what we delegated her to do is not in her little manual, called the Constitution. She doesn't have the authority, and that is a very impeachable offense. And one thing about candidates, somebody else had said, do we have anybody in Senate in Livingston County? Honestly, I don't believe we do. But the person that said that, how about you? Are you willing?
Yeah, you should
Are
run.
you able?
You should run, Charlotte. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Oh, and Charlotte says she'll help too. Good. So I think we're going to get a groundswell with this. So we started. If you want to watch the show yesterday with John Tater and I, we went through his letter, and it's really good. It was really good to go through it line by line and see why he put things in there to establish what needed to be done. Now, next week, Tuesday, on Tater Tuesday, ask your friends to join, because we're going to go through the letter to require them to remove the electronic voting machines at the township level, or they will all be guilty of treason. This is where we're going with this, guys. But we're going to need not just 10 people. And for everyone that stepped forward, I applaud you. I love you. Thank you so much. Rob says, can Donna get someone from Green Charter Township as a guest to discuss how they ousted their corrupt board? Yeah, we can do that, but why don't we go after the machines? Because that's a quick way to commit treason instead of a referendum type thing. You can have them convicted for treason. And John actually sent letters. There's 2 stories that we went over yesterday when he sent letters telling them that they were going to be charged and guilty. There was the one guy, Robert Gordon, stepped down. The letter arrived on Friday and he stepped down on Monday. Just the threat to having themselves outed a lot of time is enough, because if they know there's going to be consequences, a lot of them will jump ship because they know they see the writing on the wall. If we're serious and we band together, a lot of them are going to just leave. I can guarantee you that are breaking the law, because they know they're breaking the law. The only reason why they're doing it is because we're quiet. The minute somebody starts squeaking, it's out of here time, right? And
then you have to be willing to replace them.
Yes, and that's exactly it. If you're gonna complain and you're gonna get into this, then raise your hand and say, I either will help replace them and fix the situation, or I will help find somebody and back somebody that is qualified for this, that I believe will nullify laws, will nullify the usurpation, and hold people accountable, no matter what side of the aisle they're on. There can be no protection because they're in our little clubs. I mean, Bill will tell you right now, I came to him and I was like, Katie, bar the door, because we're going to clean everyone out of this party, or so help me God. I think my exact words are, I will burn it to the ground single-handedly. And I mean, that's the way we all should be with the parties or groups we're in. You either follow the law, you stand up for America, which is not Republicans, not Democrats, not the Constitution Party, not all these little special interest groups, not the little grassroots groups, which most of them are being run by political operatives anyway. All you got to do is get in there and really start thinking critical thinking, and get in there and say, you know what? I'm doing this for America. I'm doing this for whatever label somebody wants to stupidly put behind them or in front of their name. We're doing this for us.
Not the Seal Conservation Club.
Yeah, the Seal Conservation Club. There you go.
So I have a quote I use in business a lot when I'm training some new guys, and actually I got one coming up. I think here in the next couple of weeks I got to train again. But I tell them, if you want something done, and you want it done your way, where do you find a person to do that? And the answer is in the mirror. That is the best person to do what you want to do your way to do it. Right? And the same thing goes in civil government. If we want something done and we have the solution in our minds and we want it done our way, the best person to get that done, the only place you're going to find them is in the mirror. That's where it all starts, right? But if you see the problem and you may have a solution, but somebody may have a better solution, and you recognize that. Go for it. Back them. Make sure they have your support. That's the only way it's going to happen. We have to be willing to replace these. And I'd love to talk to the Green Township Board, because when they ousted their entire board and then brought on a new board, yeah, I haven't seen a whole lot of news come out of Green Township.
They've all been
I'm
on
curious what they're
Brandenburg
doing.
News. They've all been on here repeatedly, Bill. I had them on before the election, and I've talked to all of them, and repeatedly. Lori Brock was on here, as well as the other people that ran for office up there. So if you look back in the BNN history here, they were all on BNN during the fight time. I can have them back on again, but they were already on, and so it's one of those things that you can go listen to how they did it, and in the other ones. But if you want to have it be back on again, I'll have them on, everybody. That's fine.
Might be helpful to maybe put together like a some kind of a category or playlist of the episodes, so people that are not familiar with their names might be able to take a look at them as a group.
Okay.
Yeah, it'd be nice to know what they're doing up there.
Yeah, I'd love to see them go after all the landowners that were that used their position on the board, who were promised big dollars for their land adjacent, and part of that Goshen by, because that is exactly what's going on in all of our townships. When you look at your township boards and the zoning boards, I'm going to tell you right now, the problem starts in the zoning boards in most of these townships, because you look at the amount and the ratio of developers, which are the public enemy number one of this nation. The developers have destroyed this nation, and it's irresponsible. It's for self-gain. So when you look at, and I don't want to hear the crap, oh, we need more housing, we need more housing. No, all they do, they're parasites. They go from one area to the next, leaving a trail behind them of destroyed property. All you got to do is see what happened in Detroit. Detroit's only got 500,000 people in there. There's all kinds of land there. Nobody's dealing with it, but they're leaving it in shambles. It's most of that city is a junkyard and properties that have completely fallen to the ground, and nobody's dealing with it. So that's what these developers do. They don't go fix the community problems because they don't care. They take the quick, parasitic path of grabbing somebody's farmland, paying them a whole bunch of money, destroying the farmland, building these little 15-minute cities under the urban planning and urban development and that sort of thing. And so that's exactly what they're doing. These urban development centers, they're 15-minute cities in themselves. Watch what is happening here. And they're making all kinds of money, and they're destroying the townships and the land around them. They say, oh, we're going to go for tax money. No, they're not. Tax money is not something that you should have a overabundance for. In Byron Township, they had a $30 million tax overage here. And I heard it with my own ears. What did they do? Did they return it to the taxpayers? Heck no, they added on to the Byron Township offices here. And they keep building more schools. And they keep building these bigger and bigger castles, which is part of the problem. But guess what? Oh, and then we got to talk about raised taxes, because we weren't smart enough to plan for infrastructure. Now we got to have more roads. We got to expand the roads. We've got to expand the sewer and water and the electrical grid. And guess who's going to pay for it? The original citizens that live here, who have watched their township be destroyed by the developers, who most of them are sitting on the boards.
Well, it's
a form of bondage.
It's externalizing all of the infrastructure costs onto the municipality. And that's one argument that I see for developers is, from townships is, oh, it brings in more tax revenue. Well, okay. Yeah, it may bring in more tax revenue when you look at just the income side, but it also inflicts a ton of additional expenses. I mean, you look at the cost to a township to maintain farmland that is on a well and a septic system and a gravel road. what kind of infrastructure is there for that is payable by the township? Well, almost nothing. You got to drag the road once in a while, and you've got minimal impact on school systems. Once you start developing that, you've got all of the roads that you got to deal with. You got, like you said, the water, the sewer, the school systems, taxes, code compliance, all of these different factors that come in when you have more density, more oversight, more population, and
the need for more policing. And then they
Yep,
also take
fire.
away, then they take the and that sort of thing, which the current citizens end up paying for their little play day there to wreck the township. And then they
Police,
also
fire,
take away,
hospitals.
and then they start doing these ridiculous regulations, so you can't even raise your own food. Even if you have the land in there that you've been on, they'll tell you, oh, we did another ordinance here. Now we're disallowing this, and this. You can't have chickens. You can't raise your own food. We're not going to do gardening. You can't maintain it. If you do, this is all we're allowing you to have, and on and on and on. And screw all of you that are involved in this. We should all be working for food sovereignty of the townships. There should be a protected area that the parasitic developers are not allowed to destroy all of the farmland in a township, because we can't feed our own people. They are making us totally dependent. And it starts in the townships. They're making us totally dependent on the big corporations with their little game of self-enrichment, and we're letting them.
Yeah, and a simple solution to that. I mean, when people sell property in their local areas, most people are focused on the high dollar amounts, right? Which typically come from developers because they have high dollar and deep pockets. But the bigger question I would ask is why is that coming up for sale? We see houses sell around here all the time. And I like to ask the question, why is that coming up for sale? A lot of times they're just moving or have a change of life, something like that. But there are some legitimate times where farmland gets sold off because they can't maintain the farm because of all the overhead of the system that they're ingrained in. And that's when the people of the community should stand up and say, hey, we'll help you out on this. What do you need? You need a couple extra hands to get something done. You need a little bit of fuel for your tractors. You need, I got a horse and a drag plow. You can get things done, right, to save that kind of area instead of selling it off to developers. But yeah, the township should be one of the ones that are promoting that as well. And if they would do so, you realize then we wouldn't be actively fighting against them, and we wouldn't need to do everything we just talked about. We wouldn't need to try to remove them, and we wouldn't need to try to replace them. You're about to take on another one of my favorites, Sheriff Dar Leaf. And I don't know if he's here yet or listening yet or not, but
Not yet.
he told me once he hasn't campaigned in several election cycles. And I thought that was kind of strange. I was like, so there's got to be other sheriffs running against him, which there is. But he hasn't campaigned in other election cycles. And why is that? He says every time before the election, the people that have all his yard signs and such, they just put their yard signs back out for him. And he doesn't have to do anything. The people take care of that, and he's reelected to that position at the local level. But why is that? Because he's willing to fight on their behalf and stand in the gap, right? Through the next hour, he's going to bring that to light. I know a couple of things that he's working on currently, and they're huge. And it's taken him a lot of time and a ton of sacrifice. And this is a guy that
he's the only sheriff in the state that has gone after this and done his freaking job.
Yeah, he understands how things need to be done. And a lot of it is just gathering the support from the people to do so. Remember, we talked about that the people have the power, known as the militia. The people have the power to enforce the law, to repel invasion, to suppress insurrection, right? All of the things we see going on, all three of those things are happening currently. And the sheriffs also have to understand that they can call up the people to do that which needs to be done. They don't have to do it alone. And that's one thing I told Dar probably a couple years ago. I said, when you need something and you need a hand, call me. Like I'm not in Berry County. I'm one county north, but Berry's not that far away. I said, I'll go. I'll do it. That's the attitude that we got to have. Just do what needs to be done, for Pete's sakes, for at least for the sake of our kids, our children. We need to do what needs to be done. Otherwise, they're going to be cursing us because they're going to be fighting the same battle we refuse to fight.
You know what's really amazing? I was over on the east side of the state, and it was kind of interesting because I like Terry McCoskey a lot. He's running for sheriff there, and Rick Wickersham needs to be replaced. Okay, I'm sorry, I talked to him. He was on the bottom of my list. There was two that hit the bottom of the list. One was in Muskegon, and the other one was in Macomb County. That were my least favorite sheriffs that I talked to. And hands down, Terry McCoskey's a good guy. He's got a great background. And so we were out, and I said, come on, I'm going to teach you, take you around here and introduce you to people. And I realized that it is so uncomfortable for people to get out there and actually talk to people. And I'm really thankful that I was on the Constitution Party running for governor, because I had no party backing me, the big dollars and the big voices and such. So you have to go out there and you have to get out there and talk to people. And I mean, really talk to people. And it was a great experience for me to learn that and to be able to do that. But we need to do that on an individual basis. Go out and find your candidate that you like and say, you know what, I'm going to take you and I'm going to introduce you to a bunch of people. We're going to go down and we're going to go sit at a restaurant, and I'm going to introduce you. I'm going to take that responsibility on myself to stand with you. So that's one way you can do it. So you don't have to do it all yourself. The money isn't going to cut it, because the other side has unlimited money. They've got BlackRock, they've got Vanguard, they've got all these big major corporations that are throwing the banking industry that are throwing money into PACs, dark money funds, etc. If you have somebody that's truly an outsider, they're going to be standing alone like a dandelion in the field with their head getting ready to be lopped off, or like I always call it, it was like political Frogger. You have got to stand with the people and put yourself behind them and say, you know what, and even a goal, my whole thing was, and I think this is a good way to do it. And I said this to some of the people around Terry. I said, you can make it a goal to go out and say, you know what, I'm going to be personally responsible to get 1,000 votes for this person, because I know that they're a good person. I don't have to do the whole thing, but I'm going to get to that many people to get his name out there and see if I can move the needle on a personal level, whether it's going outside, like we had a wonderful group, Sue Rallies and Sheila and all the people that were doing the rallies for my campaign over in Macomb. They took it upon themselves. They were amazing. Every single weekend they were out there doing rallies, and it was totally amazing. But if all of us did stuff like this, let's say I'm going to do a road rally. I'm going to pick on Dar. He just came on right now. But for the people in Berry County and across the state, what we could do is say, you know what, I'm going to do an event. I'm going to set up an event for Dar Leaf to make sure that he knows that we're supporting him, and that we're gonna take it upon ourselves to say, for 5 minutes every day, I'm gonna post something to social media. I'm gonna put his name out there so big and so strong that we're gonna make media irrelevant, because at this point in time, we are the news. We're gonna go to his events. We're gonna everywhere I go, I'm gonna make sure that I say, you got to watch this guy, to the people in my networks. We should be doing this to all the good candidates.
Yeah, that's what it takes. It takes an army, and not an army of physical force when necessary, but an army of like you call it, digital soldiers, right? I think
the digital soldiers. Well, and
It
the,
does.
the
I mean,
focus on the money is got to go away, because that's how it's corrupted. That's why I'm really proud of the Constitution Party. We're not about the money. We're about the effort. It takes everyone to get in there and say, you know what, my personal goal is to reach this amount of people this month. I'm going to do this, and this, and I may not be perfect at it, but I'm going to give it my best shot. And and we're gonna stand together. They can outspend us. When I listen to the Republicans in both, there's like 3 different factions right now in the Republican Party, because they can't get it together and hold the people responsible that need to be held responsible in it, and then work together. It's 2 sports teams in a league that's going at it right now. They're not going to win. They're divided, and they're not holding anybody accountable. And they've got Pete Hoekstra in there, who broke the frickin' law, committed treason by signing that stupid Patriot Act, and they're all blaming Donna Brandenburg for removing Christina Karama. Well, she needed to be removed, but I wasn't the idiot that voted Hoekstra in either.
Yep. Yeah, it all stems around it. If we want the results we used to get, we have to be willing to do the things we used to do. This whole circle political party mentality thing is just killing this state and this nation.
It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's a low IQ process, guys. And until people decide that they're not going to follow the next Nazi party, because that's what they've devolved into. This is how they took over Germany. It was the allegiance to the parties, not the nation. And we've got to get away from it. And I know everybody in the Constitution Party that I know is basically against the political party system, but we use the method that's out there right now to make changes. So, but I think we're going to get more of them. So anyhow, Dar's on, ready to come on right now. So thank you guys for coming on, Ralph, Bill, and Karen, so much. I love you guys so much, and so proud to stand with you. We're gonna, I've got Karen, and I don't know if Karen, that you can come on tomorrow, but we're gonna be on with Ralph tomorrow for sure. And talking about all sorts of things like the EMP attacks. And we've got a bunch of techie things to talk about that I think are really important. And so, and then remember, Tuesday of next week, we're going to be on talking about this, removing the electronic machines through our townships. Please join us. I put my number in the chat, and I'm asking for your help. You need to pass this on to your friends, your networks in the state, because this is how we're going to get it done. So we don't need any titles. We don't need offices. We don't need titles. You are the highest office in the land, because you're part of We the People. So there you go. So have a great week this week, guys, and we'll see you later. But thank you so much. And that is it for Liberty Essentials. And I'll be right back on with Dar Leaf, the People's Sheriff. I'm going to call him that. He's the People's Sheriff. General Flynn, he's the People's General. Dar Leaf is the People's Sheriff.
Right.
Welcome to the second hour of Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg, and it's the 13th day of March 2024, and I'm going to bring on our buddy here, the People's Sheriff, Dar Leaf. How you doing, Dar?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. I just got to tell you, on behalf of the entirety of the United States of America, the state of Michigan, we are so proud of you. And I got to tell you, I'm so proud of you. I'm proud to know you. And thank you for all you're doing and that you've done, because like I said in the previous hour, I see you as probably the only sheriff in this state who actually has done his job. And I just want to thank you for everything you've done.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I do feel your thoughts and prayers. It gives me strength. yeah, sometimes you get feeling a little depressed a little bit here and there, but then people come out of the woodwork and all of a sudden it gives you that just like a burst of adrenaline there, and it lasts a long time. So I appreciate everybody's support.
A real friend is the friend that says that they'll sit in jail with you if you go to jail. And I think there should be about 10,000 of us here or more that say, you touch our sheriff, we're going to jail with them, and you're going to sit there and have to process this. If they're going to do this nonsense like they did in J6, let's give them what they want.
Yeah,
And
they're still doing the nonsense in J6. They just did a raid over in I think it was St. Clair County, and
yep.
If there's any attorneys out there listening, I just got a question. How can the federal government remove people from our state here without a writ? If I go,
it's kidnapping.
Well, yeah, and
it is.
Yeah, I'm just a little perplexed by this, because if we have a warrant for somebody here in Michigan and he's in another state, we go on out there, then we have to go get a writ, and then there's the process where the governor will have to actually release that person to that other state. And that's not happening here that I know of.
Well, let me ask you this. Why did Matt King allow them to come into his county and do what they did? He showed up at a Republican meeting over there, and it sounded like it was pretty pathetic, asking for money, and they asked him questions. He didn't answer any of the questions, and he allowed, as the sheriff, them to come in instead of saying, no, you're not coming in my county and doing it this way. Why was that allowed? I think St. Clair County needs a new sheriff, because I was not impressed with what I saw or heard.
Well, they're notorious on not telling us. A lot of times they use the state police to backdoor us. And like when they did the raid on the Knoll brothers here in my county, they never contacted us here at the sheriff's office. And then they use Allegan County's tactical team. And I'm real surprised on that. That's not over yet. The Knoll brothers were acquitted. That part's over. But I got some questions on why are you doing that? It's almost like they're treating me like I'm the enemy, and I'm not. I'm standing up for my people. That's all.
Yeah, it's amazing. And the usurpation is shocking from the federal government and all of these three-letter unconstitutional agencies. They need to be nullified, and it's unfortunate, and give the power back to, my opinion, is the sheriff's office in the county, because it's got everything. The office of the sheriff has everything we need for local peacekeeping and to enforce the law. I mean, it's the Constitution, the branch that enforces the Constitution. Nobody else does it.
Yeah, you're right. The problem is not many people out there have read that Constitution. That includes law enforcement. What we do is it's just kind of this conveyor belt. You recruit your people you want going in law enforcement. Some people send themselves through, and it's like a little conveyor belt. Here's what you're going to learn on traffic enforcement. Here's what you're going to learn on CSC or rape complaints. Here's how you handle a murder. Here's how you handle a bad traffic accident, and so on. And they never teach you that you're the executive branch, and what if the other branches are out of line? They don't teach that. So a lot of this stuff you have to kind of tread water on your own. I'm not going to go kick sand in Matt King's face, but I'm pretty sure that's what happened there. He probably didn't even know that was going on until after it was over. And if it happened in the city, he definitely wouldn't have heard about it.
Well, that's too bad. That's really unfortunate. So, well, I'll give him a little bit of grace here, because I wasn't going to give him any grace and say this is not okay. And but now that they did that, what's he doing to right it? So that's the point. It's like, you can make a mistake if you don't know something that's going on. It doesn't take away your duty to right what was wrong. He needs to stand up for the process and make it right, in my opinion. But
questions. And what force did they use on these misdemeanor warrants? That's the other thing. Sounds like there was a search warrant with it too. And there's a case, it's called Tennessee versus Garner, and it's an older case. And basically they come out with this acronym SURF, and it has to do with the use of force that we're using. And what's the severity of the incident? That's S. What's the immediacy of the using that kind of force? That's the I. Then the R was there resistance, and was there fleeing? So that's SIRF. And I'm hearing this stuff and I'm scratching my head on stuff that they probably could have made a phone call on and had him turn himself in. And
4 misdemeanors, and they broke into his house and they raided him. They covered all the cameras up, including a baby monitor, which tells you this is an excessive use of force. And like the Null brothers, I mean, this is an excessive use of force for coercion, and it's so out of whack. And the Federal Bureau of Investigations or insurrections, FBI, the Fedsurrectionists need to clean out their own house, because this is not okay. This is police state tactics.
Yes, I agree with you on that. I look at like Roger Stone and what the force they used to go get Roger Stone. He's somebody's grandpa. Then you go look at what are their names? Those people out in Nevada there, the Bundy Ranch there.
Mm-hmm.
They took one of the Bundys down on a airplane or a jet that just landed, and he was somebody's great grandpa. And they could have made phone calls on that, and they had to use this ridiculous amount of force. And then they get done with a trial in one federal court, and right at the end of it, they start calling the U.S. Marshals in, and rather than freeing these guys because they were found not guilty, they went and got a big old fight in the courtroom, including tasing their own attorney, not their own attorney, the defendant's attorney, and because they had they're close to getting warrants for them in another state. I don't even know if they had the warrants completely filled out. And this is where the states need to step up and say, hey, enough is enough. Your jurisdiction is limited, and you got to go through us. And that's the proper way it should be anyways.
So with everybody out there right now, I whatever you want to talk about and in which direction you want to go is where we're going to go. I know that there's probably stuff you can't talk about right now, and we're going to honor that and support you. What is it that everyone out there can do to encourage you, to support your effort there, and to stand with you? Because at this point in time, I would love to see an army of people behind you that are backing anything you touch. Anything I've seen you touch has been absolutely lawful and standing up for this state, and with the highest of integrity, as well as you have the information. You have spent a tremendous amount of time knowing the law, knowing your job as a sheriff, understanding how things are supposed to work. What would you like to see? Let's give everybody a job here. What could everyone do to help you, support you, besides pray for Dar, every single day? Pray for Dar and everyone he's standing with right now.
Well, first of all, we have to understand what government is and the proper role of government, and that's protecting your rights. The government is intentionally divided up amongst all the sovereigns, and what they mean by the sovereigns is you got your local governments, like your cities, your townships, your school boards. The government's divided up purposely on that, so it doesn't get centered into dictatorship. And so each one of those sovereigns is just what it is. It's sovereign. It's a sovereign government, just like a church government. It's sovereign from your other governments, state and federal governments. And we have to understand how that works. And in that Mac Prinz case, I got involved with the CSPOA, went to one of their conferences. Mac says it was 2012 was the first one. And that's when they started educating us on how naughty your federal government was being, or I can't say your federal government, the people running your federal government were. And then I'm getting kind of an echo there. What's that from? Do you know?
I don't know. I'm not hearing it.
Oh, okay. Anyways, then people are going to have to start educating themselves and start looking into, I don't know if you've seen that video yet, Let My People Go. The professor who did that, he's representing one of the experts, the forensic experts that's been looking into this voter fraud. And he's one of them that went into Antrim County, Michigan here and did his report on it. And his report is awful. It's a good report. His report's accurate, but it's awful when it comes to the election integrity. So you look at stuff like that, start watching those videos, take copious notes, because that is pretty accurate. They even get into the J6 stuff there, and start asking questions. You have representatives for a reason. Start asking them questions. Ask them why these federal agencies are handling these cases like with these tactical teams. Why are they handling them by taping over the video cameras If they got undercover officers in there, then why are they doing the search and not somebody else in there? Because when you cover up the video cameras, how do you know if they're not throwing something down somewhere? That's why you have those cameras in there. It's security, even security from your own government. So just stuff like that. And you nailed it on the head. I was listening towards the end of your conversation to that last group there that you need digital warriors out there. When your people that you like in office are getting attacked, there needs to be a stand. And quite frankly, that's so humbling when, like, I'm in those crosshairs and the people come in and stomp out those fires. I can't say enough on that. I get a little goosebumpy even thinking about it, that people think that much of me and what I'm doing. So stuff like that, letters to the editor. And when they don't print your letter to the editor, start calling the newspaper. Ask them why. Why are you not putting my letter to the editor? I thought this was free speech. You're there as a newspaper because of the First Amendment. Yeah.
Well, and it goes back to the fact that we are the news anymore because mainstream media is fake stream media. And so any of the citizen journalists that are out there, you need to put this stuff out there. But as an individual, you can always take this, and we're all on social media. You can put this stuff in your social media groups and such. And I know most people can hit, they don't think they can, but they can probably hit about 10,000 people a day pretty easily in these groups or more. And you don't have to try too hard to do that. So if you really want to work on it, you can hit 100,000 or way more than that in a day. You just have to want to do it. And it doesn't take a lot of time. It just takes dedication and an unrelenting refusal to fail and to let them take this nation over. I mean, it's the refusing to fail, refusing to lay down in the face of corruption, coercion, entrapment, and all of this stuff. There's plenty of people that this corrupt government, this illegal government, it's illegal. They cheated. They stole the election. They stole 2020. They stole 2022. They've been stealing it for a long time. And we're going to have to right those crimes before we really go forward. But it's going to take all of us to say, it just stopped. Right now, this moment in time, it stopped.
Yeah, the CSPOA, we've got a video out that's the Constitutional Sheriff and Peace Officers Association, for anybody who doesn't know who that is. And it started by Sheriff Mack because of the Brady bill. Federal government was trying to commandeer the office of the sheriff and basically make us do the dirty work on all this gun control stuff. Well, Sheriff Mack and 7 other sheriffs stood up and said no, and they filed a lawsuit. Well, they won it. It went all the way to the Supreme Court. They won their case. But Mack was so disgusted that only 7 sheriffs out of 3,087 sheriffs would take that stand. He said everybody else is going to be lockstep and going out and enforcing it when it was illegal. So where I'm going with that is he took a stand, and there's 7 of them that took a stand, and they made this huge impact, which is probably the largest victory on the 10th Amendment in the history of this country. And so we got to make sure that we understand what that was all about. What did Mack really accomplish right there, which was huge. That was the dividing of these sovereigns. That was telling the federal government, no, you don't run the state governments or the local governments. You are within the sphere of the Constitution. You're limited. So, oops.
I didn't know it could do that. You put your hand up and did a heart. Huh. That's interesting. So
okay. Talk about the Constitution, hearts pop up. That's good.
That's good. That's a good thing.
But we have to start understanding that stuff and start teaching it out to our children and grandchildren, because that's what they're doing. Is they're going after a generation, just like all the communist leaders like Stalin and them are all saying that all they need is one generation. I can make you all into communists. We have to start standing up for our local law enforcement, because there's a big push, what I'm seeing anyways, a big push to federalize and even globalize law enforcement. We can't
have the UN.
Yeah, we need that local control. We also need to take this case, that Mack Prin's case, and we need to start pushing that these townships and saying, hey, the governor cannot come up with a committee and take over constitutional offices. because who do they answer to? They answer to the people in that community. And you start looking at these elections, what they're trying to do with some of these elections. They want to centralize the elections at the federal government. What could go wrong there? We've already centralized it enough to the Secretary of State, and we need to take that back and make it more local again, so we have control of the qualified voter files. The qualified voter file really isn't that old. If you look at my age, anyways, started in like 1993. And why did they do that? Why was it necessary to start a qualified voter file? Well, look where we're at today.
So that they can, I'll say what nobody else wants to say it, so they can rig the election at that level. You look at what Benson did, and she added, what was it, 300,000 people back on the voter rolls, the dead people. And you start looking at that nonsense where they're manipulating. Even there's so many different ways that they've manipulated this and put the cheat in so that they can remain in power. And it was a very brilliant but very evil plan, because it all worked together. And then they started writing the rules and the laws in order to subvert more of our power and take it and usurp. They're usurpers in order to take this over. I mean, this is a full-on insurrection, internal coup of the United States of America. And everyone sitting in the offices right now, I'm completely convinced that everyone that's sitting in the legislature committed treason, because they allowed the election to be certified. They're the ones we should be pointing at. Everybody wants to make an enemy out of Whitmer and Nessel and Benson. Well, they're chip shot. They're chip shot communists. Okay, they're Marxists. But the legislature has got everybody buffaloed because they passed it right on, just like what Nessel did with the voter registration scam. She passed it on and said, "It wasn't me." It's like a third grader response. I didn't do it. Yeah, you did.
Yeah, there's more and more stuff coming out from like Arizona. And if you watch, Benson just did a little, I think it was an interview with some news station a while back. Like, I'm talking within the last 2-3 weeks.
Who's that?
Benson.
Benson.
And talk about how she's been working hand in hand with these swing states, Secretary of States. Well, she wants to run for governor now. Well, the Secretary of State in Arizona, she's now the governor. And it's almost like they set these chips up for them to win. And I don't know. It's just, there's just so much going on with this. And it's almost like, will it never end? What we really needed was a task force of law enforcement. And we needed to be able to get that task force that powers to do everything they can to investigate it, obviously without trumping on the Constitution. And instead, we used a 4 or 5 panel Senate committee to go look at the alleged greatest fraud ever committed on the people of the state of Michigan. And then they did a 55-page report, and I read the report, and it has been a while since I read it. And so I started asking questions of my senator at the time who was on it, because he was the ear, nose, and throat doctor. And it was like, what do you know about law enforcement? What do you know about deceptive body behavior? What do you know about the eye roll directions? And what about the GPS in the truck that dropped those ballots off? And everything I'm mentioning right now, all of a sudden, you're going to see that they're going to not have those in the trucks. They're not. You look at that case of the state police when we used to track their phones. Now they're using what they call burner phones. And so everything that we've been looking into, now they've found a way around it. And it's just like any other criminal enterprise. You arrest these meth dealers or meth cookers, and they get into jail here, and they start talking to each other, and they say, "Oh, that's how you did. That's how you got caught. Well, I won't do that next time."
So they're teaching each other how to break the law more.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's a shame. So, what could we do to talk to the sheriffs across the state? Is there an effort for the sheriffs to work together to take the state back? Because I know there's an organization.
You have a lot of Democrat sheriffs here in the state, and we try not to talk politics at our conferences, because we want to look at each other as sheriffs. And what happens is, when I start getting sheriffs that want to come aboard and start working with me on stuff, all of a sudden they'll do something like they'll do a press release that all this naughty nine, and then my picture shows up in there that they're after me for this tabulator thing going on. And next thing you know, everybody jumps back and just doesn't want to get involved.
They don't want the bad press. They don't have the guts to go after it because they don't want the bad press.
Yeah, but I'm not going to speak for them, but it's just odd that all of a sudden we're talking, and then I'm having a hard time getting people to return my calls. When I made the statement about people being innocent until proven guilty on that plot against the governor there, 50% of those people, when they go to trial, have been acquitted. And it wasn't so much about that. It was, my comments were more because they were trying these guys in the social media. And why was the news getting 48 texts that the defense attorneys didn't have yet? So there was stuff like that going on. And I had to say something because it's wrong. We need to have a good, strong jury pool. We cannot have it tainted by the news media. And that's kind of the basics of our due process laws and our life period.
Yeah, I think it's important not to jump to conclusions with everything that we see in the media, because there's an awful lot of spinning going on. And, sit back and just go, well, let's see where this is going to land until we get all the information, because that's I think that one of the biggest threats to the nation is in fact a very uninformed we the people in general. Now, there's a lot of us out there that have been studying. There's a lot of patriots anymore, and we certainly have woken up to the realities of the brainwashing that's going on through fake news and that sort of thing, which is really good. But we really need to question everything and make sure that we're not contributing to an already bad situation and becoming a captured asset ourselves to be a mouthpiece for the bad side. So
tends to happen is we work together as law enforcement for quite a while, and then when it gets to the point where it is today, all of a sudden we think we're still working with them rather than working with our people that put us in office. And it's human nature. Since my career here, we always had a great working relationship with state police, and we used to have some of the state police officers comes from the bigger, rougher areas, and they'd always come in and tell us stories. And of course, it's a fish story. His fish is this big, and by the time they get done, it's like this. So it's fun talking to them. It's a good release because the officers do need that release. And I got a little kind of a policy here that I don't want them having their body cams on when they're just having normal conversation, like having coffee with each other, because they need that time to vent. And some people say stupid things. We all do it. And now it's on camera, and now all of a sudden they want them fired because their attitude or something like that. Well, no, they need to vent. Otherwise, this job will drive you crazy, and that's why you see the suicide rate so high.
There's a high suicide rate in law enforcement. I did not know that.
Yeah, and corrections, yes.
Really?
Yes.
Wow, that's something I didn't know. I can imagine that it's a horrible amount of stress though, and always having the microscope looking at everything you do is unrealistic.
Right, but again, like I said, they need to do something to get that stress out of there. When you see somebody burned up in a car, that's bad. That's horrible. Same thing, just death. Some people just can't handle seeing a dead body there. They might have died of dead natural causes. And then there's the different smells that's around somebody who's deceased. And depending how long they've been deceased, all that stuff you just can't unsee and you can't unsmell. And I just, again, pray for your corrections officers and your law enforcement. In fact, the suicide rate is higher amongst correction officers than it is law enforcement.
Wow. That's too bad. What a messed up system we have right now. And, certainly we've got human beings that are sitting in a very bad position, but they're willing to do that. And that's an amazing thing. And we should all be thankful for every single person who is willing to take on any of these jobs, which come with a high personal cost.
We do have some good training coming out now, because I don't know how many people out there have actually experienced a full-out adrenaline dump. And I got a saying when I go to these concealed pistol classes and I teach them, I say, the higher heart rate is, the dumber you're going to get. And that's the adrenaline getting to you. And that's why we, when an officer gets involved in officer involved shooting, we try and get them away from the scene for a while and let that adrenaline come down and out of their system, because you actually remember things better. Well, we've got training right now where officers come in and let's say they're going to go handle somebody, and all of a sudden it goes south in a hurry, and next thing you know, you're in a big old Donnybrook, and one of your officers starts going out of control, and you get the guy handcuffed, and he wants to go get a couple extra shots in there. We got training now to how to grab him by the belt and pull him back off and say, hey, calm down, get that adrenaline under control. And normally they might be a super nice person and all that, but that adrenaline dump just gave them that just minute of stupidity.
Wow, that's good advice, I think, to everyone too, because are you seeing a lot more people out there who are having problems just in real life, not just officers, but are you seeing a lot of people that are having a hard time handling the emotions of seeing so much bad news right now? I mean, is it something that the law enforcement officers are seeing?
Yes, but it's also social media driven. If we wanted to calm things down and get the crime rate down, get rid of social media, the amount of like sex trafficking and all that stuff, and when we did this worldwide web, that just opened the doors for more and more people to do it and see it.
Well, it's realizing, the reality of the world, but I think it's usually a more helpful strategy to focus on your community and do something positive. When we see something that's really bad, instead of mulling on that, look at it, evaluate it, be aware of what's out there, and then find something positive you can do to counteract it. And that could be, go have coffee with somebody that's alone, find somebody who's stressed, or, maybe reach out to somebody like Dar, who's in the crosshairs all the time, and his officers, write him cards. Maybe we need to send people some encouragements every day when we know that they're out there working and doing their best to right this really wrong situation. What else can we do out there for everyone out there to be helpful to you and everyone else that you're standing with right now? Should they reach out to their sheriffs? I mean, I'd love to have a list of 10 things we could do.
A list of 10?
Yeah, you said get educated, so that was one.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There's 10 exceptions to the search warrant rule that, that's built into my DNA for law enforcement, but
just some ideas. Oh, we lost your sound, Dar. I think you had a phone call come in. We've had this before where a phone call will come in and all of a sudden it cuts the sound. I think leave and come back in. Yeah. Okay. So this happens once in a while. Live show, so no problem. He'll come back in just a minute. I think this is I think we should come up with some ideas on how to support people who are actually standing for us. We talked about that in the first hour, and how we can, he's got so many people that absolutely back him and love him over there in Berry County. He doesn't even have to do much campaigning. He can actually just protect the area because the people in Berry County are supporting Sheriff Dar Leaf. And I think it's extraordinary. It's wonderful. Give him a second to come back in here. I love talking to Dar. He came to the Constitution Party and was our speaker at let's see if you're there. Can I hear you?
Yeah. I on again?
Yeah, you're on again. So yeah, we're really thankful that you came to the Constitution Party, our meeting there, and it was wonderful. And I got so much feedback on what you talked about. People were like, wow, I actually learned a lot in this meeting. And it's the way that, honestly, it's, in my opinion, the way that things should be, is that we need to teach each other what we know. And you were fabulous to listen to.
Oh, thank you. What happens is somebody calls and I see their name and I hang up on them. I don't have voicemail. I'll call them back, and then that's what knocks me out of the meeting here. So
yeah.
Anyway, where were we?
Different things that people can do to help you besides getting on social media and perhaps talking about this so that we become the news and in their face a little bit.
Well, first of all, don't believe everything you hear, especially in social media. I like the kitty litter boxes in the schools. I got school resource officers, and they laugh at that. They said there's no kitty litter boxes in any of these schools. And reality is the health department more than likely wouldn't allow it. So yeah, just stuff like that. That's one of those things that kind of divides people, and they get mad at their schools. Not everything going on in your school is evil. There's a lot of good going on in your school. So stay positive. We can take this back. It's going to be bumpy, but we can do it. And just stay positive, stay the course. What you were just talking about, the social media stuff, that's huge. Correcting people. When I run my campaigns, I took a lot of the heat, and people were spreading a lot of rumors, and we did a correct and then move on approach to it. Get involved in campaigns and people you want in there. You got to get involved, and folks, you have to pull out your wallet because the money's coming from all over. The elections, don't be afraid to ask, or demand even accountability. Some of the stuff that was going on that was illegal back in 2020, they're trying to make it legal now, and like challenging a ballot. I think they may have passed that now, where you can't challenge a ballot if you're a poll watcher. Well, why are you poll watching?
Yeah, who is behind this?
I don't know who was behind it, but now what happens is now you go back, and the people who were violating the law back then, now they're saying, "Oh, it's moot now."
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah.
So I would like to know if that was just one of those things that Benson decided to write in and say, we're going to eliminate this from the executive branch, or if the legislature actually wrote this in and approved it.
What I'm seeing a lot of is stuff coming from other states. Like some of those gun laws are coming from like the state of Washington and California. Just pay attention to that. There's a lot of money coming in from other states for our governor and secretary of state's races. You look when they were trying to do that recall. That petition was going around to recall the governor. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And the former Secretary of State, Richard H. Austin, come up with some opinion. And folks, he can do an opinion. That's okay, but it's not law. Okay. The Attorney General, when they do an opinion, it's almost like law until either Congress acts or a court overrules it. And so anyways, the Secretary of State said, well, if you're
got a call that came in. We're going to have to redo this again. Well, but we're going to endeavor to persevere. I think that's a great way to support people, is we just keep going, even if things go a little bit wrong. Stick with it, and refuse to let difficulties chase you away. Okay, there you go.
Phone hasn't rung all morning, and now I get two right there. Anyways, when they were doing the recall petition, the Whitmer's team started collecting money, and well, Richard H. Austin, when his opinion was that if you're up for recall, then you don't have to go by the normal campaign finance laws. So he had I think it's 7,150. I think is the maximum you can give to a political candidate, an individual. And next thing you know, you had $250,000 coming from one of the Bernsteins. You had $250,000 coming from the governor of Illinois, and that all is going to this account. And then you had people, there's a lot of $150,000 donations, and it was like $6-7 million that they raised. And then when the petition failed, the governor says, well, I can't keep it, so I'm just going to give it to the Democrat Party. And that's the money they used for these races for rep and senator. Well, folks, there should have been screaming and hollering, stomping our feet, because she was not up for recall. There was a petition to put her up for recall. That's a completely different thing. The petition.
Wow.
So you're not supposed to be just giving it to a political party. If you got all that money coming in and it's unlawful, you have to give it to a charity.
and nobody in the legislature said a thing. They just went along to go along to get along. Why isn't it? Because the laws are supposed to be made for in the legislature. Why are these people in the seats that are representatives? Why are they not standing up for their areas? Why are they not calling this out and say, "Oh, hold the phone, time out, accountability time here"? And I have big questions on that, because that's the area that seems like everybody's trying to avoid, is talking about their reps, their representatives, and they're the ones that are charged with certifying the elections, as well as making the laws, making sure that none of this nonsense happens, and they're not doing their jobs.
A lot of it is you have these laws are written by attorneys, and you have a lot of people who are not attorneys. We got 3 state reps that reach into Berry County here. One's an insurance into insurance. The other one was a hairdresser, and the other one was a farmer. And so it's an education on their part too. And so they follow the leadership a lot, because there's a lot to having a seat in one of these House of Representatives or one of these Senate seats. And what we need to do, another part is we need to educate ourselves on what the limits are on the senators, the House of Representatives, the Secretary of State, the Attorney General. Now, right now, the Attorney General says she's a chief law enforcement officer for the state, but not according to Public Act 203 of 1965. She's not even considered law enforcement. And so basically what happens in the act that defines who law enforcement is, and it'll talk about your sheriff, your local police, state police, and then it'll say, like, a prosecutor can have an investigator, but the investigator has to be sworn in by your sheriff. So now we got prosecutors out there going, "Oh, we're the chief law enforcement officer." Well, no, you're not enforcing the law. That's your sheriff's job. And so then there's a list over there. This is not law enforcement. And there's like posse, reserve officers, the park workers for the DNR. Then it goes on down to the Secretary of State and the Attorney General in the list that are not law enforcement. So just make yourself familiar with all that stuff and go look at the progression of what the Attorney General's job was back in 1950 and what it is today. It'll shock you.
Brent Winters that has the courses out there on the militia and the Constitution and all that sort of thing. Are there good resources out there that people can go through a systematic learning process for these topics? You know, you can find stuff on the Constitution and this, that, and other thing. Some of it's good, some of it's bad. And but what would you recommend?
Oh, any of Brent books. He writes them at the common law, and he'll bring it down to a level where you can understand it. He's got a constitution. You know, those pocket constitutions. Mm-hmm. He has one of those that's broke down in the common law, and what the Constitution's written in the common law, so he breaks it down so we can understand it in normal English. And that's what we're trying to do with these classes, like the militia of the several states. He's got one, and at the bottom it says our Constitution's answer to its enemies, and he breaks it down from the common law to what it is today. And what I do when I'm with him, I tell him what it's like for a sheriff and how we handle that stuff. Then there's the.
I'm going to go ahead and bring up the website here for Brent because I think this is a great. It seems to be, besides the fact that you're recommending it. Oh, let's go here.
Yeah, this is the Excellence of the Common Law. It's written by Brent Allen Winters. It's a thick book, but it's excellent. And if you read this, you'll have a very, very good handle on laws and common law. Here is
the commonlawyer.com, and this is Brent's course or his courses. And I think that this is we're going to be doing a course in. Let me see if I can find it here. Here's all courses. We're going to be doing a course in the Constitution Party on the militia. I've got a bunch of people that are interested. I just got to get off my tail and get it done. I've been a little busy, but we're going to do it. And so all of these courses right here. And I really want to have a group together where we go through all of these courses and, go through it in a way where we're discussing it and learning together and move from one right to the next. So here's the several states, because I do find his information and the stuff that you teach to be incredibly helpful easy to understand, and informative. It's not just a waste of time like going to a lot of groups where people just want to complain. It's actually learning what the law is and what our rights are and how to enforce it.
But you look at it in a bigger picture. We basically have two votes, and one's at the ballot box and the other one's the jury box. And they've diluted those down really, really bad since the probably early 1900s. And you go into a courtroom and you're a juror. The next thing you know, the judge is giving you jury instructions. Well, the old jury instructions were the jury foreman's in charge, not the judge. The judges make sure that all the wants from the jury are met. And so we've diluted that down. We've diluted our elections down. We've diluted our representatives down and representation. You even look at some of these stuff they put on the ballot for us to vote on for constitutional amendments here in Michigan. And what we do, like Proposal 2, it took stuff away from our representatives and it put it into one person. Well, that we're supposed to be avoiding that. So now we're concentrating power into one place rather than dividing it up amongst us sovereigns. So
how do we fight that?
Well, we did I can't say there was a recount done by Election Integrity Force, and they've got a pretty bad report on it. And it was an election. So how clean was it? It was Proposal 2 and Proposal 3, which was the abortion proposal. They call it reproductive rights, and that's how they sold it, but they didn't. People don't read that stuff. Those things are sometimes like Proposal 2, I think was like 7 pages, and you only get this little itty bitty paragraph on your ballot. So how do you fight that? Well, you start reading those things and get involved. If you, I don't care which organization, but like the Right to Life organizations, they were sending stuff on out to read the whole thing. And they were highlighting stuff on there that were really dangerous. So get involved somehow. It's going to take involvement, and unfortunately, it's going to take some of your wallet money.
And investment of your time.
Yes.
Yeah. So, well, I think there's a lot of when they did the mandates, the unconstitutional, lawless mandates and such, and tried to get people, try to isolate people. There's so much damage that was done psychologically to this country with the psychological warfare that they pulled on us. And I every single person out there that is balanced, normal, and sane needs to jump into that pond a little bit to try to help the people around that are struggling, because we're not meant to be separate. We're meant, we're like herd animals. People are. We like to be together. And I kind of liked it when they used to congregate in the taverns and talk about things that were meaningful, and establishing groups on your own. I think that's a great thing. And it's really sad when people say, oh, I'm not into politics. I don't want anything to do with politics. Well, you know what? I know what you feel like, because before I ran for governor, I felt the same way. I was so done with this. And I see the chats out there and how people talk and they lie. And it is incredible. But you know what? We don't need to shy away from it. We need to run right to the fire and say, this is a lie, and I'm going to set the record straight. You can't walk away from problems. You have to hit them head on, because they're not going to go away. They're just going to get worse.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, what else can people do to support you? Do you have a contact where they can contact you and send you cards and smiley faces and such,
Here at the
Sheriff,
I don't want to give you my email because I get hammered. Same thing with my cell phone. You just right here. I got another person trying to text in here, and
I tell you what, you guys can all text me, because I put my phone number in the chat this morning. I put it out there all the time, and if I can't get right back to you, I always respond. Or you can come to my Telegram channel and make comments there, because I do all of that, and I'll pass them on to Dar, because any of your well wishes and such. So is there a place they could send a card to, or something, or a letter if they want to?
Berry County Sheriff's Office, that's fine. And our address is 1212 West State Street. That's Hastings.
There we go. Another phone call. Everybody's calling in because you're on camera. Here we go. This is funny. So just leave and come back. Here we go again. This is funny, but you know what? I love doing it live because they can't manipulate the record because the record is in real time and live. So I find this to be one of the best ways to hold people accountable, because they can say, oh, Donna Brandenburg said this or that. I'm like, go back to the original video, because it doesn't change. So anyhow, back to Berry County Sheriff's, and that's, what was the address?
1212 West State Street, Hastings, Michigan 49058.
There you go. And I just think that there's so much we can learn right now and stand together. So I'm going to say a prayer. We're going to end it with a prayer here. And I would love to have you on a regular basis. I know you're a super busy guy, but you've got a lot of people here that absolutely love you and want to stand with you. And if we can pull people in to help you here and help educate them, maybe we can do something on a regular basis where we pick a topic and just talk about it, just a topic to help empower them. So John Tater and I we went through a letter where he put together a letter and laid the laws out. And there was a man named Robert Gordon who in fact resigned. Then he got the letter certified on a Friday and he resigned on Monday. And Tuesday, we are going to be formulating letters, and I would like to invite the entire state to jump on this, because we're going to kick this thing forward, where we are going to demand of our townships that they must get rid of the electronic voting machines. And we're laying out the law for people to go into their townships and say, this is the law. You're breaking the law by including this in our elections. They are. I mean, it's foreign involvement in our elections, among other things. And the involvement with Board of Elections Director Jonathan Brader, not one of my favorite people, and also Chairman of the Board of Eric, which this is all contributed to the steal of our elections. And I'm going to just tell everybody out there, it's going to be up to us, because the legislature has proven themselves to be a complete and utter failure. They have not stood up and done anything. Neither is anybody in the seats right now. So it's going to be up to us to take this nation back and to instruct the local people. I'm going to tell you right now, I think that if some of this goes out there, a lot of them are going to just resign when they understand the consequences of breaking the law. And we're gonna try to move this forward a little bit. But I would love to be able to, to talk about those and also to pray for you. So let's say a prayer for Dar and everyone out there.
Real quick, the little movie out there, it's called Let My People Go. Get it. You can download it. You make copies of it. It's the professor who did it wants this information out. It has to do with voting and J6, and it's very, very accurate.
I'll give him a call. He's a friend of mine. He stayed with us one time when he was in Grand Rapids. So I'll get him on. I'm glad you brought that up.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. David. Even in the video itself, he says, I want this out. I'm giving you permission now to share this with everybody. So
I'll give him a call today and we'll see if we can get him on. So I'm glad you brought that up, because, there's so much going on that all of us, our heads are on a swivel. Sometimes we miss something that's an obvious thing. So let's all say a prayer for Sheriff Dar here, guys. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so very much for Dar Leaf and all the people he's working with. He is an amazing gift to this state and this nation, and the courage that he has exhibited and shown us is a wonderful example. And I ask that you would take that courage, that bravery, that moving thought into action that's been an example for us, and put it in the hearts of every single person out there watching this show. Give them the motivation, the nudge to get behind Dar and all the people that he's standing with, and anyone that's standing for this nation in honesty, truth, integrity, to have a lawful process to uphold the Constitution and this nation, and to leave it for our posterity. This is what you've charged us with, and you've given us this great gift of this nation. It's an amazing gift you've given us, and we thank you for this so much. We're thankful. We're grateful to you. We're grateful that you're leading us out of this bondage to this totally corrupt system. And I really believe that you're showing us the corruption so that it never gets repeated again once we get past outing all of the traitors and the crimes that they have committed, not just against we, the people of America, but against this world that's your world. It's your sandbox. And we're willing to follow you, Heavenly Father, into anything that you ask us to do, because we have faith in you. You're good all the time. There is nothing that we aren't willing to do if you ask us to do something. We give you our time, our lives, our fortunes, and also anything that we can do, we're willing to do. Thank you so much for your blessings. We ask that your favor rests strongly upon Dar, all the lawfare that's going on right now, the investigations behind the scenes. We ask that you would confuse every plan of the enemy of this world, the Satan himself, and any agents that have thrown in with him. We ask that you confuse them. You make it difficult for them, that you put blocks and barriers in their way of any success, and that you would give your favor upon this state, we the people, not the government, but we the people, this world, not the governments, but the people everywhere, and all the fighters, the warriors that are out there willing to stand for something that they believe in their service to you and your creation. We thank you so much. You've been a great friend to us, and we want to be a wonderful friend to you. We love you so very much, and thank you for this day ahead of us. We are excited to see what you're going to do this day. It's all about you. We just follow you, and we're willing to follow you this day and every day. In the name of Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
So
I have
there
to
you
fly
go.
meeting. It's got to come up here. So
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on today, Dar. And I really, really appreciate it so much. And we'll be talking to you soon. So have a great day. I'm going to end it here. Have a great day, everyone. God bless you all. God bless all those whom you love, and God bless America. Make it a great day. Starts here, here, and here. We're going to take this nation back. We're not asking for permission. We are going to restore this nation by the strength and the power of God Almighty. Have a great day. Bye, Dar. Thank you.